Amazing rescue at the lake. Billionaire discovers the touching truth about his long-lost daughter. Jack Reynolds stood on the edge of Lake Serenity, the sun glistening off the water's surface as laughter and chatter filled the air. To an outsider, he was the epitome of success: private jets, luxury cars, and penthouses that touched the sky. Yet beneath that veneer lay anguish, a gnawing regret that clung to him like a shadow. The gala he attended that evening was meant to restore his image, but how could he be a part of a community when he felt like a ghost in his own life? While the band played his favorite tune, a melody that tugged at his heart, he turned away from the crowd, attempting to escape the hollow feeling swelling within. As he walked along the shore, every step echoed a childhood filled with dreams that never came to fruition. His ambitions took him far from the family that had nurtured them. Jack hesitated, wrestling with the thought that his pursuit of wealth had cost him the one thing he truly craved: belonging. That existential crisis shattered as chaos erupted from the lake. Ripples turned into waves, and shrieks pierced the air. Heart racing, Jack rushed to the scene, horrified to witness a group of teenagers struggling against the churning water. Panic surged through him. Was someone in danger? As he approached, his gaze locked onto the girl being pulled from the fray. A fierce jolt shot through him, her features mirrored his own from decades ago. This unmistakable resemblance rattled him to the core. It couldn't be she was Mia, his daughter, the child he had never known, raised by a mother he abandoned all those years ago. The revelation crashed over him like a tidal wave, harsh and unforgiving. Emotions collided within him: regret, guilt, and a deep sense of loss. His breath quickened as he contemplated the life she must have led without him, haunted by the abyss he had created between them. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack struggled to reconcile their lives: his towering wealth against Mia's impoverished upbringing. Desperation gnawed at him, an urge to bridge the chasm he had created. But how? The weight of his neglect lay heavily upon him, invisible chains binding him to his past choices. What words could encapsulate the remorse for lost birthdays and milestones? As he approached them, Mia's eyes darted away from his, filled with unspoken anger and hurt. A storm swirled in her gaze that reflected years of betrayal. Jack clenched his fists, fighting to suppress his own fears of rejection as he read the internal tumult mirrored on her face. Could he ever be the father she needed? Just when he thought clarity flickered before him, it slipped away. Someone from his past appeared at the edge of the crowd, a figure that threatened to unravel everything. The moment hung heavy in the air, filled with unresolved tension as Jack faced a reality brimming with anguish. Would he ever earn Mia's forgiveness, or was he destined to carry the weight of his abandonment forever? Jack's thoughts raced, a maelstrom of emotions swirling in his mind as he realized the enormity of the situation. The crowd, once bustling with life, faded into a distant hum, eclipsed by the confrontation ahead. He glanced at Mia again, her defiance cutting deeper than any insult. Each second stretched out like an eternity, giving him ample time to scrutinize the cracks in the facade he had built around himself. She turned away, her body language speaking volumes. To Mia, he was a stranger, a phantom from a past filled with pain. The distance between them felt insurmountable, an emotional chasm wrought by years of absence, filled with the jagged stones of lost opportunities. He had failed to protect her, she had every right to loathe him. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the prickle of tears threatening the corners of his eyes. This was not the time for self-pity, it was a time for action, a time to be the father he knew he could be. Yet, how could he approach Mia without triggering the raw wounds of betrayal? The thought paralyzed him, but he couldn't retreat. Not now. With a newfound determination, he stepped closer to her. Mia, he called softly, an attempt to breach the wall she had built. Her eyes flashed with suspicion as she turned to him, the weight of her emotions practically palpable. It took everything within him not to falter. I didn't know you existed until now. Her gaze hardened, a barrier he'd need to break. You didn't want to know, did you? You made your choice long before I was even born. Each word dripped with the poison of unfiltered resentment, but Jack stood his ground. You're right, he admitted, his voice steady despite the turmoil churning inside. I can't change the past, but I'd give anything to be part of your future. Please let me explain. Mia crossed her arms, the tension in the air thick enough to cut. He could see the conflict on her face, a desire to push him away and an equally intense need for connection. Something clicked in him, the realization that he needed to show her who he was now, not the man he once was. Look, he continued, his tone shifting to a more earnest plea. I have made mistakes, and I'll likely make more. But I want to try. I spent my life chasing success, only to find it hollow without family. You are part of my life, and I want to make things right. As silence enveloped them, he scanned her expression, weighing the flicker of curiosity against the firm wall of distrust. It looked like he wasn't just battling Mia's anger, he was fighting an entire lifetime of abandonment he had caused her. Just then, the figure lurking in the shadows stepped into the light, his former business partner, David, whose presence sent a rush of dread through him. David's smug smile threatened to expose everything Jack had been trying to conceal, the daddy-dearest image he was desperately trying to craft. What business did he have here, especially at a moment so vulnerable? Mia shifted slightly, eyes darting away from Jack toward the unwelcome interloper. The atmosphere crackled with the tension that only compounds when unanswered questions linger. What did David know? A storm of doubt raged inside Jack, the urgency mounting. He needed to protect this fragile moment with Mia, to cement whatever connection they could carve from the rubble of his negligence. Why don't we talk privately? Jack offered to Mia with a sincerity that felt uncharacteristic of him yet necessary. He had no idea if it was enough, but he knew change required courage. The stakes were now infinitely higher, and so were his aspirations. Mia hesitated, weighing her options, while Jack steeled himself for whatever fallout was next. Could the truth of his missteps pave a new path, or would it be another mistake turning into a potential prison of regret? As she looked between Jack and David, the air thickened with tension. The moment hung precariously, but the time had come for reformation or ruin. Jack felt the tightness in his chest squeeze as Mia weighed his offer. The seconds elongated into what felt like hours. For a split second, he could see the conflict etched across her face, her longing for connection battling against the years of pain he had inadvertently cast upon her. David stood barely 10 feet away, his presence a threatening storm cloud ready to burst, and Jack's mind tumbled with what could happen if Mia chose to walk away. Let us step away from here, she finally said, her voice trembling as she gestured toward the edge of the nearby park, away from prying eyes. Jack nodded, relief washing over him even as a fresh wave of anxiety crashed in. They walked in silence, Mia's features contemplative, her emotional armor still very much in place. He took this moment to study her. She carried herself with a confidence that was both remarkable and a reminder of all he had missed. Questions swirled in his mind. What dreams did she harbor? What did she think of him? As they reached a secluded spot, with only the soft rustling of leaves and the distant sound of laughter lingering in the air, Jack turned to her. Mia, why should I believe anything you say? Her voice was sharp, almost accusatory, cutting through his intentions like a knife. You didn't even know I was here. How can you suddenly care? Despair pricked at Jack's resolve. What could he say that would be enough? He had worked tirelessly to build a name for himself, yet here, standing in front of the daughter he had failed, his accomplishments felt trivial. You're right, he said, his voice earnest. I didn't care enough then, but I've changed. It's harder to wake up every day knowing I missed out on the most important part of my life, knowing you. Her hardened expression wavered momentarily, and he seized the moment. I'm not perfect, Mia. I might stumble, but I want to be here for you. Just give me a chance. Why now? Her voice dropped, curiosity breaching the wall. You have everything you could want. Why come back now? What do you really gain from this? Jack hesitated. It was an astute question, cutting through his superficial reasons. The truth surged to the surface, and he felt an overwhelming compulsion to unveil his soul. I gain the chance to actually live. Success is hollow without someone to share it with, and I want to build something real. I want to know my daughter. I want to help us both heal. Mia frowned, processing his words. He could practically see her defenses recalibrating, a mix of skepticism and intrigue swirling in her hazel eyes. He took a cautious step closer. The man you see now. I'm no longer that selfish version of me. I've spent my life hiding behind wealth and prestige, thinking it would fill the void, but it hasn't. I'm ready to face my mistakes, including the one that put us on opposite sides. For a moment, Mia's gaze flickered to the ground, her arms uncrossed, revealing a vulnerability that felt monumental. Was it hope mingling with uncertainty he detected? I just don't want to get hurt again, Jack, she finally admitted, her voice smaller now. How can I trust you? Trust takes time, and I know I have a mountain to climb to earn it, he replied, voice steady and sincere. But I promise you, I will do whatever it takes to demonstrate that I'm here to stay. My life has been an empty canvas without family, I refuse to go back to the shadows. A moment stretched on as he awaited her response, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, just as Mia seemed to lean toward an answer, David's mocking tone pierced through the serene atmosphere. What a delightful reunion. Should I get the cameras ready for this touching family drama? Jack's blood ran cold. He turned to see David approaching, arrogance exuding from every step he took. This was no longer just about him and Mia, it was about confronting the ghosts of his past, ones that threatened to unravel the tenuous connection he had begun to weave with her. Mia, please, Jack said, determination surging through him. This is the moment we begin to decide who we are without the weight of the past holding us back. I won't stand by while he pulls strings in my life. The intensity thickened, an undeniable crossroads unfurling before them. Would they decipher their shared future amidst the fragments of their shattered past, or would David's shadow loom too large and swallow them both whole? The challenge was upon him, and Jack felt the urgency in the air. Now more than ever, he needed to confront the man who represented everything he wanted to leave behind. Jack's eyes narrowed at David, his mind racing through potential responses. The man loomed like a dark cloud, a constant reminder of the choices that thrived in deceit and betrayal. Jack felt the anger simmering beneath his surface, each taunt from David prodding him, trying to provoke a reaction, hoping to dismantle what he had begun to build with Mia. Mia, David drawled, a patronizing smile plastered on his face. You don't really intend to listen to this charade, do you? He is just a man who has realized his fortune is meaningless without a dysfunctional family to complicate things. Jack clenched his fists. He could feel the urge to retaliate, to fight back and expose David as the person he had always been, a manipulator who thrived on turmoil. But as he glanced at Mia, her face conflicted and torn between their shared history and the unfamiliar hope he offered, Jack knew he had to rise above the petty provocations. He was fighting for her, not against David. Enough, Jack said, stepping forward. He refused to let David's words taint this moment any longer. I'm here to make amends, not to stoop to insults. The past was filled with mistakes, but moving forward requires courage from both of us. David's smirk faltered momentarily, eyes narrowing with surprise. Courage? What a lovely joke. Do you even hear yourself? You think you can just waltz back into her life after disappearing for years because you feel guilty? Jack could feel the judgment wrapping around him like a vice, but this time he wouldn't crumble. I know I can't erase the past, but I'm willing to try. I've spent enough of my life avoiding difficult conversations, hiding behind projects, money, and ambition. I'm ready to confront what I've run away from, and that starts with you. Mia's eyes darted between the two men as tension crackled in the air. Jack's heart raced not just from the confrontation, but from recognizing the weight of his words. This moment was a catalyst, a flashpoint that could dictate the course of their future. David, you don't know what I've been through. I've wrestled with my mistakes for too long, and I want to change that narrative. The question is, do you want to hold on to your power or share in a healing journey? David scoffed, dismissing Jack's words. Healing. You think she will want to join you on some fairy tale after everything your actions caused? Wake up, Jack. He swayed closer to Mia, trying to draw her within his sphere of influence. You have a choice. You can rise above this pathetic reunion or drown in the chaos of his emptiness. Mia, Jack said gently, knowing full well the battle David painted. This isn't a fairy tale, and I'm no Prince Charming. But I'm serious about changing. He saw her hesitation, the flicker of something he hadn't anticipated, an inkling of support, perhaps a betrayal of David's coercive grip. You deserve to choose your path, not be dictated by the fears of your past. I'm standing right here, ready to face this with you. You're not alone. Her gaze softened momentarily, a glimpse of the daughter he wanted to know. I'll need time, she finally said, her voice steadier now, hesitation battling against a burgeoning sense of agency. Time is something I will respect, Jack assured, feeling the stirring of hope. I want to build a future where we can both feel free to be ourselves. I won't rush you. But even as he spoke, David's looming presence was like a dark specter hovering over them. Jack's focus sharpened. The fight for Mia's trust suddenly seemed not just personal but shrouded in the need to confront David. Let us not forget, Jack, David sneered, I have ways to ensure she remembers how things truly were. It's easy to spout promises. The menace in David's voice ignited an urgency within Jack. He had to definitively sever the hold David had over their lives. The time had come to face his skepticism while preparing himself for a confrontation that could redefine everything. Then let us settle this once and for all. Here and now, Jack challenged, looking straight into David's eyes. I want to let you continue to influence our lives. It ends today. The words hung between them, a stark line drawn in the sand. Could he endure a confrontation that would force him to face the embodiment of his doubts, his failures, and potentially reshape his journey with Mia? He was ready to battle for her, not just to reclaim her but to reclaim himself, and that was the kind of determination that could either forge a new connection or unleash an insurmountable storm. Jack stood his ground, feeling the weight of David's stare bore into him like a sharpened blade. He could sense the anticipation crackling through the air, each moment stretching into an eternity as they both calculated their next moves. David, with that insufferable smirk, began to circle like a predator. You think this is a fairy tale? You think you can just claim her back with some grand gesture? He leaned closer to Mia, his voice dripping with condescension. What happens when the charm wears off and reality sets in? Jack forced himself to breathe, aware that any hint of doubt could set David ablaze with triumph. I'm not trying to charm anyone, he replied, steadier than he felt. What I want is an honest chance to build trust from our wounds. That requires all of us to acknowledge the truth. The tension escalated like a thunderstorm threatening to break, and Jack felt Mia's gaze slide back to him. In those seconds, she remained a reflection of vulnerability. He needed to show her that he was worthy of her trust, that he could be more than the ghost of the father she barely knew. Start with the truth then, Jack, David challenged. What makes you think you're qualified to guide her? Jack's mind raced, the very question igniting something within him. Because I've been lost in my own ambition for far too long, he said, surprising even himself with the clarity of his insight. I've finally faced my failures. I lost sight of my priorities and hurt those I loved in the process. I'm here because I want to make things right. He could see the impact of his admission. Mia's expression shifted, her conflict visibly intertwining with a flicker of hope. Jack had moments of clarity before, but this was different. He had embraced vulnerability rather than hiding from it. That was his strength. What do you really want, Jack? Mia asked quietly. Is it me or is it redemption? His heart clenched at her words. I want you, he replied, his sincerity unfiltered. But I also understand that my journey has to mean something more than simply reclaiming you. I want to be a better person for you, for us. David's snicker broke the moment. And what makes you think I want to expose you? The past has a way of creeping back. One slip, and Mia will know the truth about who you really are, a coward hiding behind empty promises. A surge of determination swept through Jack. If you think exposing my past holds any power over me, you're mistaken. I'm ready to own every choice I've made, however painful. What matters now is who I choose to be today. There's nothing you can do that will ruin this moment for me or for Mia. Mia seemed surprised at Jack's newfound conviction. David, eyes ablaze with fury, took a step back, momentarily disarmed. The heat of the confrontation crackled as the truth hung between them, an opportunity for Mia to see Jack for more than just his history. Mia, Jack turned to her, holding her gaze. You have the right to choose who is in your life. But if you decide to give me a chance, I want to show you that I can be the man you deserve. I can no longer stay silent or run from the past. Don't you see? David yelled, frustration piercing through his demeanor. You're at a crossroads, and he's leading you blindfolded into the abyss. Choose wisely, Mia. Dark clouds gathered, mirroring the ache in Jack's heart as he sensed the weight of David's influence still lingering. The enormity of this encounter loomed over them, but Jack was no longer paralyzed by fear. He had decided to confront both David's manipulations and his own self-doubt with clarity. This fight wasn't solely about reclaiming Mia but about reclaiming Jack's sense of self-worth. And he had to believe that taking a stand would usher in a new chapter not just for himself but for Mia as well. As the confrontation intensified, David glowered at both of them, yet Jack felt an overwhelming clarity unfurling within him. The time had come to act, to assert his intention to protect and nurture the relationship he desperately desired. There was no turning back. The realization capsized his internal storm and set a steady course. Today was about standing firm in his truth despite the storm around him. Jack took a deep breath, prepared to shatter David's looming shadow and draw Mia into a world where they could forge a connection beyond their history. You deserve more than the past. It's time we redefine our future. But would Mia agree, or would David's whisper of skepticism continue to cast doubt on their journey? The gravity of that decision loomed before them like a cliff's edge, and Jack steeled himself for what was to come. Jack felt the adrenaline coursing through him as he weighed the words hanging in the air. Every beat of his heart thudded like a drum, reminding him of the stakes involved. This wasn't simply a moment to reclaim Mia, it was about seizing the person he wanted to become. The shadows of his past persisted, but they no longer dictated his choices. Mia stood still, enveloped by a whirlwind of emotions. Jack could see the flickering shadows of doubt dance across her face, a turbulent tide that echoed his own internal battle. The flicker of hope he had seen moments ago now wrestled with fear. He needed to reach her. Mia, he said softly, whatever decision you make, I want you to know that I'm here, ready to be accountable for my actions. David's laugh cut through the moment, jagged and harsh. You really think you've got it all figured out, don't you? He taunted. But accountability? Please. You've spent so long running away, now you think standing there is enough to erase the past. Jack couldn't let David's cynicism crush him. He turned to David with resolve, grounding himself in his purpose. You seem to hide behind attacking others to bolster yourself. I won't let your words shape who I am anymore. His tone was monotonous yet firm, revealing his refusal to engage further in a purposeless battle. Mia's eyes hardened as she processed the confrontation. Jack could feel the shifting energy around her, the reluctance in her stance. Jack, she began, hesitating, how can I trust that you're not just saying what you think I want to hear? What if it's all just words? Her question struck him, and the weight of his own past washed over him again, mingled with the taste of humility. I can't expect you to trust me based on promises alone, he replied, voice steady. All I can do is show you, day after day, what it means to be the person I ought to be. Trust requires time, and I'm willing to put in the work if you are. Jack's gaze shifted from Mia to David, who remained stubbornly nonchalant. It pained him to think of the damage David could inflict, both on Mia and their relationship, but he could not allow the fear of that potential to paralyze him. This moment is ours, he continued, determination seeping into his words. I won't give it up to you. David's sneer faded, revealing uncertainty, a flicker of awareness that perhaps Jack had stepped into his own power. It was a silent acknowledgement of the ground Jack was claiming, a territory forged from vulnerability and courage. For the first time, Jack felt not just bold, but capable. Suddenly, Jack sensed a shift in Mia. She took a tentative step closer to him. You've been through so much, haven't you? She asked, the softness of her voice rekindling the fragile connection they shared. But how do I know you won't lose your way again? Jack considered her question carefully, the fear of his own failures echoing in his heart. I've made mistakes, Mia. I've lost sight of what truly matters. But what I see now is clarity, a desire to be someone you can trust, someone who stands by you. His voice dropped, carrying the weight of his commitment. I'm prepared to fight for that trust. I want to show you that I can be better, not just for me, but for you. The air felt electric between them as Mia's expression softened, uncertainty dissolving into contemplation. Jack saw the myriad of choices flash across her face, and in that moment, he realized it was only Mia who needed to be brave. He had to extend that courage to her as well. David's impatience hung heavy in the air as if he were a storm cloud ready to break. You're wasting your time, Mia. Jack will let you down, just as he has before. David, Jack interjected, his voice firm and unyielding, I will not allow you to undermine what is happening here. My past does not define my future. Mia's gaze darted between the two men, her internal conflict palpable. Jack took a deep breath, heart racing, waiting for the path she would choose. This was his moment, not just for himself or Mia, but for a future of their making. As the tension in the air thickened, Jack sensed the gravity of the decision hanging precariously before them. Would Mia finally grasp the hand he had extended toward her? Would she find the strength to step forward with him? But as David's anger flared anew, Jack prepared for the forthcoming storm. What would happen when the truth about their relationship was pushed into the light? Would it strengthen their bond, or fracture it while revealing the very wounds they needed to heal? Jack felt the weight of the moment pressing in on him, each second stretching into an eternity. The air crackled with tension, and he could sense Mia's hesitation, her mind swirling with possibilities and fears. David stood like a looming specter, taunting them with every word, ready to pounce on their vulnerability. Why do you care so much about this moment? David scoffed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You're only prolonging the inevitable. She'll see you for who you really are soon enough. Jack clenched his jaw, the frustration boiling beneath the surface. He knew that backing down now would mean letting the darkness of his past claim another part of his life. This was about more than saving his relationship with Mia, it was about reasserting his identity and choosing to be the man he wanted to become. Mia, Jack said again, determination coursing through him. I care because I believe in us. I believe in what we can build together. I know I've stumbled before, but I want to show you my commitment. Actions speak louder than words. He stepped forward, narrowing the distance between them, making it harder for doubt to flood in. His eyes locked onto Mia's. He needed her to trust him, even if just a little. David shifted, irritation firing in his eyes. And what if this is just another charade, Jack? You've been on this path before, pretending to change. What happens when the real you emerges again? Jack took a deep breath, the scent of the lake mingling with his resolve. Maybe you're right, he admitted, his voice steady. Change isn't easy, but I have to fight for it. I have to fight for her. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every day is a new opportunity for me to prove myself. Mia's expression flickered, something unreadable crossing her features. The agony of indecision was palpable, and Jack felt an ache in his chest at the thought of losing her. The vulnerability he had exposed was raw, but it built a strength he hadn't known existed. "What do you need from me, Jack?" she finally asked, the question laden with significance. Her voice, though still tentative, edged nearer to conviction. Clarity washed over him. "I need you to see me for who I am now, not just who I was," he responded earnestly. "I'm here to fight for us, but I also want your perspective. How can I earn your trust?" For a moment, silence engulfed them, broken only by the rustling leaves and the gentle lap of water against the shore. It was a moment where the noise of their surroundings faded and the vulnerability opened pathways to possibility. Mia started, voice trembling slightly. "I want to believe in you, Jack. But trust, it takes time, doesn't it?" "Then let us take that time together," Jack urged, frustration giving way to hope. "Let us rebuild what we had, piece by piece." Just then, David's derisive laughter cut through the fragile atmosphere yet again. "Rebuild? You think she'll just forget your past? It's not that simple, Jack. It never is." The contempt in David's voice ignited more than frustration in Jack, it sparked an ember of defiance. "This isn't your battle. Mia deserves better than to be a pawn in your game." Mia watched the exchange, caught in a riptide of emotions. She had to decide. Jack's heart raced under the weight of possibility. Would she choose to embrace the uncertain future they could create together? As Mia weighed her next move, Jack felt something shift within himself. Whatever lay ahead, he had stepped into his personal power in a way he hadn't before. He was willing to face whatever storm would come, to build trust and love from the ashes of his mistakes, and as he stared into Mia's searching eyes, a new, terrifying question began to take form in his mind. What would happen if, despite all he had shared, she still chose to walk away? The answer loomed like an impending storm, thickening the air with urgency. The moment stretched painfully, each tick of the clock echoing Jack's growing anxiety. He could sense David's gloating presence still looming, but now it felt muted against the rising tide of his own determination. The conversation hung heavy, crystallizing the day's gravity. Would Mia choose to step into the unknown with him or retreat into her comfort zone? "Mia," he urged, forcing his gaze to hold hers. "I know that trust isn't given freely, it's earned." He felt the vulnerability crater in his chest, yet it solidified his purpose. He was not the man he used to be, but he still had to show her that truth. "Can you commit to small steps?" Mia asked, her voice shaky but resolute. "We can't ignore your past, Jack. It's part of you and it worries me." Her words struck him like a cold wave. He hadn't thought about how his past might filter into their present. "You're right, and that terrifies me," Jack admitted, vulnerability in his tone. "But I can't change who I was overnight, just like I can't expect you to erase your doubts with a few promises." Mia nodded, searching his eyes for something genuine amidst the tumult. Jack felt a flicker of hope, perhaps this was the breakthrough he needed. Then, David chimed in, breaking through the fragile filaments of connection they were weaving. "This all sounds good in theory, but theories don't win trust, Jack. You think she is going to wait while you figure out your life? You've let her down before." A swell of anger threatened to unhinge him. Jack inhaled sharply, fighting the urge to unleash his pent-up rage. He had to focus. "You don't get to dictate this. What Mia and I have is worth fighting for." David took a step back, visibly taken aback by Jack's shift in energy. "All right then, fight. Show her what you can do. But I promise you, one slip, and I'll be there, waiting to remind her of who you really are." As Jack contemplated David's words, a dark cloud hovered in his mind. What if he did slip? He had failed before, and there were scars to prove it. Yet, he also felt the ache of growth, the pivotal moment where personal development no longer meant simply avoiding failure, but actively choosing to succeed. "Mia," he said, voice steady now, "let us try this. I could suggest going to a workshop for couples. Something that helps us have these hard conversations. Her expression brightened slightly. You really think it will help? It's worth a shot, isn't it? If we're going to leave the past behind us, we need the tools to build something new. It's not just about me proving myself, it's about us. Together. She lowered her gaze, her mind a tangled web of hope and doubt. But what if it doesn't work? Jack took a tentative step into uncharted territory. Then we'll adapt. I'll figure out what I need to do to stay committed to our choice. I might falter, but I'll be honest about it. The surge of bravery lifted him. This was his chance not just to reassure Mia, but also to redefine himself away from the shadows of his past life. Slowly, Mia's walls began to crack. Okay, Jack. Maybe we can explore this together. The moment felt charged, fragile threads of possibility weaving between them. Jack's heart thudded, he could feel change on the horizon. Determination washed over him, lined with the bitter clarity of his past mistakes and the promise of what could be. Just as the warmth began to settle, the sound of David's snicker echoed in the background, dispelling the fragile warmth that had started to envelop them. Good luck with that. When it becomes too hard, I won't say I told you so. Something in Jack's chest exploded, a mixture of anger and focus on what lay ahead. It was time he took charge, not only for himself but for Mia too. His voice, resolute, pierced through the dissonance. We'll figure it out, trust me. He turned back to Mia, every fiber of his being anchored in the truth of his evolution. The world didn't feel settled, but it was on a precipice of transformation. Just then, a phrase cut through his thoughts, echoing louder than David's taunts. What if failure was merely a step toward the true version of himself? As they faced the uncertainty together, Jack realized he could redefine what it meant to genuinely care. The journey to earning trust would be tumultuous, but he was ready to embrace the fire of personal growth. Yet, as Mia's eyes glinted with a mixture of hope and apprehension, he knew their confrontation with David was far from over. The real test lay ahead. Would he truly be able to turn his aspiration into reality, or was it all another fleeting moment in his ongoing struggle against his past? That question hung heavy in the air as they prepared to take their first tentative step into a new future, but the specter of doubt loomed larger than ever. Jack felt an electric current course through him as he braced himself against the weight of his decision. It was all fresh territory, untraveled ground for both him and Mia. The threat of David loomed in the backdrop, but right now, every ounce of his focus was directed toward ensuring Mia felt supported. As they walked away from the tension of that moment, Jack took in the world around them. The cool autumn air whispered past him, the leaves rustling like soft encouragement. He breathed in deeply, letting the chill invigorate him. Each step felt both like a challenge and an opportunity. First workshop, he murmured to himself, repeating the words as a mantra. Mia turned, catching the tail end of his thoughts. What's on your mind? She asked, her eyes narrowing with sincere curiosity. I was just thinking about how we can prepare for the workshop. It'll make things clearer for us. We could set some personal goals while we are there, share what we hope to achieve together. The idea sparked a flame in Jack that he hadn't felt in a long time. He could already envision a brighter potential. Sounds like a plan. But, she hesitated, turning her gaze back towards the ground. What about the things we're afraid to say? What if we bring up the ghosts of the past? Her vulnerability was both alarming and comforting. Jack could see in her eyes the fear of reopening wounds they both had worked so hard to reconcile. Then we face them together. That's the point, right? It's about understanding how our past informs us, without letting it choke our future, he replied, feeling an emerging sense of authority shaping his voice. Mia stopped, allowing the weight of his words to hang in the air. Do you really believe that? He took a moment before answering, letting quiet introspection tether him to reality. I do, Mia. If I didn't, I wouldn't have asked you to join me. I'm not perfect, and I may not have all the right answers, but I want to be honest with you. There was a fierceness to his resolve now, as if each word was a nail being driven deep into a foundation he was building not just for them, but for himself. Gradually, she nodded, and the tension between them lightened a fraction. This was the first connection, the crucial step forward. But it wasn't enough merely to share thoughts, they had to act. As moments passed, Jack could feel excitement bubbling beneath the surface alongside the anxiety of their commitment. In the days ahead, he wouldn't just attend the workshop, he had to apply what he learned. He would carve a path steeped in accountability, where he showed Mia that he meant it. All too soon, they found themselves in Mia's car, the city stretching before them like a canvas waiting to be painted. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, piercing through their comfortable silence. It was a message from an unknown number. Jack frowned, taking a moment to gather his composure. There was an instinctual retreat within, a rumble of dread. Was it David again? He cracked the text open, his pulse quickening. It was a link to a forum where people shared experiences about shattered pasts and paths to recovery. An opportunity, possibly. Look at this, he said, holding the phone up for Mia to see. As they drove, Jack shared the potential of taking their journey even further. He contemplated his own scars and the wealth of untapped knowledge that could be gained not only from the workshop but from those who had survived similar struggles. Mia, if we want to evolve past our pain, we must be willing to learn from those who've walked these paths before us, he added, allowing the idea to swell in the open space of thought. The road stretched ahead, but as each mile passed beneath them, Jack felt a commitment emerging that he had never grasped before. By embracing his vulnerabilities, he could emerge transformed, no longer a shadow of David's words but an architect of his own reality. Suddenly a thought struck him. Would Mia be receptive to exploring this community? These pillars of support? Would you want to connect with others who understand? Perhaps it would help us both. Mia bit her lip, contemplating the proposal while the weight of their last conversation presided over them. Maybe, she conceded finally. But I'm scared. And there it was, the mirror of his own apprehensions reflected back. The journey of growth was fraught with uncertainty, but facing it together ignited a hope that felt stronger than fear. As the car rolled on, Jack's resolve strengthened. Striding forward wasn't just about healing, it was about redefining everything he thought he knew about himself, challenging every doubt, and emerging into a version of himself that could stand tall. But just as a glimmer of excitement surged inside him, urging him onward, he caught sight of a familiar figure standing at the corner of the road. David. The intense confrontation didn't seem avoidable any longer, it felt imminent. Jack's heart raced. Would this be the moment he had to face the most daunting challenge of his new journey? Jack stood beside Mia, awareness of their budding journey wrapping around him like a reassuring cloak as they paused at a crossroads. Despite the shadows from his past lurking at the corners of his mind, he no longer feared confronting the remnants of his previous life. David's presence at the edge of the road felt like a storm gathering, ready to unleash the rain of chaos he had weathered many times before. Yet strength surged within him, a clarity that had been absent for far too long. Mia, he said, focusing on her. I know that confronting David will be another challenge for us, but we can face him united. I need you to believe that we're capable of overcoming this. Her hazel eyes flickered with uncertainty, an echo of the battle within him, but with each calming breath, he felt the weight of insecurities begin to fall away. As they approached David, Jack's heart thumped, a powerful reminder of the meaningful path they had already chosen. This was not just about facing a past filled with mistakes but about demonstrating the man he had become, a father desiring a relationship with a daughter he was willing to fight for. I know what you've done, David. This isn't your game anymore, Jack articulated each word with intent. The clarity of his newfound purpose steadied him. Is that so? David sneered, his smile tinged with condescension, like nails against a chalkboard. You really think you've made any changes? You're still that same man who put everything on the line for wealth and status. Jack felt a rush of indignation but forced himself to remain calm. You're wrong. I spent too long chasing shadows and now I want to build something real, something that lasts. He shifted his gaze to Mia, seeking her support. Her nod infused him with a sense of solidarity, a shared belief that they could define their own narrative despite the obstacles. Why would she ever choose you? David replied, his voice laced with venom. You abandoned her once, how can she believe you won't do it again? Jack's heart raced, the stirring of old wounds surfacing momentarily. Mia, this is a decision only you can make, he turned back to her, absorbing her internal conflict. You have every right to question me, I've earned those doubts. But I'm here now, ready to show you what I'm capable of. The past won't dictate our future. The resolve in her eyes was growing. I want to believe you, Jack, Mia whispered, her voice barely audible yet filled with conviction. But words can only mean so much. It's actions that matter. Jack felt invincible, powering through the suffocating clouds of self-doubt that once smothered him. Your right actions speak volumes, he replied earnestly, his gaze resolute. I'll show you who I am, not through promises but through every single choice I make moving forward. David's mocking tone lost its hold and trembled slightly upon hearing Jack's conviction. When you crash and burn, don't come crying to me. I'll be there to remind you of who you really are. Jack's heart pounded, but the fear dissipated, leaving only fierce determination. You can try, but my narrative is rewritten every day. The Jack of the past doesn't reflect who I am now. Mia stepped slightly closer, her presence radiating encouragement. Let us prove him wrong, Jack. If you're willing to take this step, I will support you. Shoulders squared, they faced David together, a united front against the specter of the past. The air settled into a tangible silence, thick with the weight of their shared resolve. This ends now, Jack declared, stepping closer, powered by something greater than the fear of his failed ambitions, his commitment to become a father Mia deserved. Jack knew this moment would not define their entire relationship. A brief encounter with David was but an initial blip on the radar of their evolving connection. Navigating their path forward would be demanding, filled with honest discussions about past mistakes and uncertain tomorrows. Yet the newfound belief in themselves felt like wings unfurling, yearning to take flight. Mia, he said softly, finding courage in her presence, we can rise above this. I'm not that man anymore. As they stood resolute against David's presence, a defining sense of satisfaction enveloped Jack, a quiet pride in taking responsibility for a future born of accountability and growth. He felt accomplished and deserving of this resolved sense of purpose. Eventually, David huffed and stepped back, an irritation flying away rather than emerging victorious. You really think you can keep her by your side? We'll see how long this little charade lasts. With that, he walked off into the distance, leaving them behind, where a bond seamlessly interlaced with respect and hope began to grow stronger. The air felt lighter as Jack squared his shoulders, turning to Mia. Are you ready? I am, she nodded. We can start anew together. A solid foundation had emerged from the chaos, one they had forged through determination and understanding, a testament to their courage. Jack had taken a powerful step, solidifying his role in Mia's life, and he felt a wave of personal fulfillment wash over him. He had done it, conquered the uncertainty of abandonment, became a man willing to embrace growth, and proved he could become a reliable presence in Mia's life. Jack's heart swelled as they walked hand in hand, feeling the embrace of possibility surrounding them. What they had reclaimed felt monumental, both a past and future tethered into one coherent dream. They had chosen to stand beside one another, and that spoke with more power than any words could convey. This is your chance to embrace transformational stories. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. They deserve inspiration. You need to subscribe now, this moment is critical.